The RMS Titanic, a marvel of early 20th century engineering, was the largest and most luxurious ship of its time. Dubbed the Ship of Dreams, it set sail from Southampton, England on April 10, 1912, bound for New York City. On board were more than 2,200 passengers and crew members, representing a microcosm of society, from the wealthiest aristocrats to the humblest immigrants. However, what began as a grand voyage would soon turn into a tragic tale of love, loss, and human resilience. The story begins with the Titanic's departure from Southampton. The ship, towering and majestic, casts a long shadow over the dock. The sun glints off its pristine white exterior as crowds gather to witness the historic moment. The atmosphere is filled with excitement and anticipation. Passengers board, some waving tearful goodbyes to loved ones, others eagerly anticipating the adventure ahead. Among them are Jack Dawson, a spirited young artist from America, and Rose DeWitt Bukater, a beautiful but conflicted young woman from an aristocratic family. The camera transitions to the lavish interiors of the first-class quarters. Rose, dressed in an elegant gown, is escorted by her fiancé, Cal Hockley, a wealthy and controlling businessman. Rose feels trapped in her life of privilege, bound by societal expectations and a loveless engagement. The grandeur of the first-class dining hall, with its crystal chandeliers and opulent decor, contrasts sharply with Rose's inner turmoil. Despite the luxury around her, Rose feels suffocated, longing for freedom and a sense of purpose. Meanwhile, Jack and his friend Fabrizio, both third-class passengers, explore the ship's lower decks. They marvel at the sheer size and complexity of the vessel, excited to be part of such a momentous journey. The lower decks are bustling with activity, filled with passengers from various walks of life. Despite their cramped quarters and modest surroundings, there's a sense of camaraderie and hope among the third-class passengers. They dream of a better life in America, unaware of the tragedy that lies ahead. As the Titanic sails through the North Atlantic, Jack and Rose's paths cross in a serendipitous encounter. Rose, on the verge of despair, contemplates throwing herself off the ship's stern. Jack, wandering the decks, spots her and intervenes just in time. Their connection is immediate, despite the vast differences in their social status. Jack's free-spirited nature and zest for life intrigue Rose, who is captivated by his stories of adventure and his art. They begin to spend time together, forming a deep bond that quickly blossoms into love. Cal, suspicious of Rose's growing attachment to Jack, presents her with an extravagant gift, the heart of the ocean, a rare blue diamond. The gift is intended to remind Rose of her place in the world and to solidify their engagement. However, the diamond becomes a symbol of the chains that bind Rose to a life she no longer desires. Jack, unaware of the diamond's significance, continues to draw Rose away from her aristocratic world, showing her the beauty of a life lived freely and passionately. In one of the film's most iconic scenes, Jack invites Rose to a lively party held by the third-class passengers below deck. The atmosphere is joyous and carefree, a stark contrast to the stiff formality of the first-class salons. Rose, for the first time in her life, lets go of her inhibitions and joins in the dancing, laughing and twirling with Jack as the music plays. The scene highlights the stark differences between the two worlds on the ship and how Rose is drawn to the warmth and authenticity of the lower decks. As the Titanic continues its journey, warnings of icebergs in the ship's path are received but largely ignored. The ship's captain, Edward Smith, confident in the Titanic's invincibility, maintains a course at high speed. The mood on board remains festive, with passengers unaware of the danger ahead. Rose and Jack, now deeply in love, steal away to the ship's bow, where they share a tender moment, gazing out at the endless ocean. The stars above them shine brightly, oblivious to the fate that awaits. Late on the night of April 14th, the lookout suddenly spots an iceberg directly in the Titanic's path. Despite efforts to steer the ship away, the iceberg scrapes along the starboard side, sending a shudder through the entire vessel. In the first-class dining room, the impact is barely felt, dismissed as a minor inconvenience. But below deck, Chaos ensues as water begins to flood the lower compartments. The ship's design, once thought to be unsinkable, is now revealed to be fatally flawed. As the crew assesses the damage, it becomes clear that the Titanic is sinking. The mood aboard the ship shifts from carefree to panic as the reality of the situation sets in. Lifeboats are prepared, but there are not enough to accommodate all passengers. The ship's class distinctions become painfully evident as first-class passengers are given priority, while third-class passengers are left to fend for themselves. Jack and Rose, realizing the gravity of the situation, vow to stay together no matter what. As the lifeboats are lowered into the freezing Atlantic, scenes of desperation and heroism unfold. Women and children are given priority, while men are left behind. Rose is urged to board a lifeboat by Cal, but she refuses, choosing to stay with Jack. The two lovers navigate the chaos, searching for a way to survive. The ship's band plays on, their music a haunting backdrop to the unfolding tragedy. The camera captures the stark contrast between the orderly evacuation of the wealthy and the frantic scramble of the lower classes. As the Titanic's bow plunges deeper into the ocean, the stern rises high into the air. Passengers cling to the ship's rails, their screams echoing through the night. Jack and Rose find themselves on the ship's stern as it reaches a near-vertical position. In a final, heart-wrenching moment, the ship splits in two, sending the stern crashing back into the water. Jack and Rose are thrown into the icy ocean, struggling to stay afloat amidst the debris. The once grand Titanic now lies broken and submerged in the dark waters of the Atlantic. Lifeboats float nearby, filled with survivors huddled together for warmth. Jack, knowing he cannot survive in the freezing water, urges Rose to climb onto a piece of floating debris. He promises her that she will live, and that she must never let go of the hope they shared. As the cold takes its toll, Jack succumbs to the icy depths, leaving Rose devastated but determined to survive. As dawn breaks, the RMS Carpathia arrives to rescue the survivors. Rose, exhausted and grief-stricken, is pulled from the water and wrapped in a blanket. She gazes back at the ocean, where the Titanic sank just hours before, and vows to honor Jack's memory by living the life he inspired her to pursue. The camera pans over the lifeboats filled with survivors, each carrying their own stories of loss and survival. The final scenes shift to the present day, where an elderly Rose reflects on her experience aboard the Titanic. She recalls the events that shaped her life, the love she found and lost, and the courage that allowed her to survive. As she gazes at a photograph of herself and Jack, the memories flood back, bittersweet but cherished. The film ends with a shot of the heart of the ocean, now lying at the bottom of the Atlantic, a silent witness to the tragedy and love story that defined the Titanic's legacy.